This is Ocean to Ocean. I'm Art Pinsof. Today I'm talking with Frank McCaughey. Is that how you pronounce your name?
McCaughey.
McCaughey. Oh, I love it.
McCaughey, yeah, yeah. I do love coffee, but McCaughey, coffee is a thing, yeah.
It's the
Um,
thing. So,
yeah,
so today I'm talking to Frank, who is a host of the podcast and YouTube series that used to be called "Can I Be Frank?" Now it's called "Behind the Curtain." He's
yes.
He's also yes, and he's also directed the film Zero, One and Zero. Is that right? Or Zero and One?
Uh, 0 and 1, yeah. I
Yes.
like that. I like that directed. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, no, yeah. No, he's the director of a movie. That's a great intro.
Hey, I'm talking to a film director today,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's true. It's a great film, great documentary of sorts. It's the length of one, and it's on YouTube at this point. And Frank also has a lot of great content on YouTube and his Patreon. So welcome, Frank.
Cheers, dude. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I was just watching this little clip you uploaded, which I find very interesting. I love it. You just titled it "Working Title" on your YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's pricking with the camera. Yeah.
It's just some footage at the beach. No description, no story.
Yeah.
I
No,
love.
absolutely. I love playing with stuff like that. Yeah. I love getting the
Yeah,
camera out and just doing it. No idea what I'm doing with it, but just playing with it, chopping and changing and messing around with it.
I love it. Like
Mm.
we're playing with our toys.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a toy for me, that's for sure. Playing with that sort of stuff. I could do it all day, really, especially the editing and the pricking with the footage. I really enjoy that.
Well, do you know what you're doing with your podcast at this point, or is that also just playing with it?
I can't say I know what I'm doing with it. I've kind of an idea going forward of something that I'm going to do, but really, I just go where the wind takes me with it. When I was a kind of a seeker, I probably did way more, but it's now I've always was kind of select about who I picked, or who I went to try and ask anyway, and I suppose. Yeah, I've enjoyed the process of it. The aftermath of having to put it out there, like I enjoy meeting people, I enjoy the conversation, and then it's a kind of, you get the feeling, oh yeah, I forgot, I have to go and put this. Not that I have to, but there's the bit of hassle. Whereas there is real enjoyment of the conversation, and the kind of general principle is, if I enjoy the conversation, maybe somebody else will. That's the kind of height of it, really. And so I've a couple of ideas of where I'm going to take it over the next month or so, with a slightly different direction. But other than that, really, I've no idea. I mean, I've never really made any money out of it, or it's not been for money, that's for sure. But sometimes I think about getting rid of it, but that doesn't seem to happen. Sometimes I think about doing loads, and that doesn't happen either. So we just see how it goes. But I enjoy the process of just kind of jumping into nowhere and meeting people. Mostly have no agenda, if you know what I mean. Mostly just up for the bit of conversation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I relate. That's and you so it was called. I think I found your talks right at the end of when you were calling them "Can I Be Frank?"
Okay,
And I
yeah.
really liked that title. It was pretty funny, because you're asking. You're approaching people with the seeking energy and asking questions about literally, can I be frank? Some summed up the whole thing, and and now you've transitioned to this other brilliant title, "Behind the Curtain." Like, and you've got the Wizard
Yeah.
of Oz right behind you now. So
yeah. No, that's definitely in there. Yeah, it is definitely. Well, I love the idea behind the curtain. Like, there's absolutely nothing happening in a way. That's it's a kind of a filmic moment. I love the idea of it. Yeah, it's nice to play with titles. Behind the curtain is a friend gave me "Can I Be Frank?" and I thought, well, that kind of just works. And
yeah.
Behind the curtain was probably I recently watched. I don't know whether I watched it before or after, but when I was a kid, I remember watching Wizard of Oz and finding it so freaky. Like, it's just so. I hated the Wicked Witch of the North, and but recently I don't know. It was very interesting to watch it as an older person, watching and seeing those different little elements to it that you just obviously couldn't fathom as when I was younger.
Yeah, and you have children as well, like a son or two?
Yeah, I have 3 little people living in the house and 2 4-legged friends living here.
Wow, that's a
Yeah.
family. Well, did
It
you
sure is, yeah.
did you watch
Yeah, like I said, I've no idea what I'm doing. Anyway, yeah.
did you watch the movie with everyone, with the little ones and the 4-legged friends? Did they?
I tried to remember. I wanted to watch it out on my own because it was so long, and I was just pure curious to see how I would see it now.
Yeah,
And it's also kind of trippy too. It's kind of little trippy elements. I mean, more than that, huge trippy elements to it. And well, I can't remember with the kids. Can't remember whether they watched it or not. I'd say they probably watched it for 5 minutes and went, here. I'm not watching this.
Yeah, old. Yeah, no, I've been thinking about rewatching it myself. I was talking to Tim Kliss the other day, and he was making this joke about behind the curtain. Like, I've got this, William Turner painting behind me right now, and it's, I can just turn it off, and this is behind the curtain. I'm in bed.
Yeah.
On and off.
Yeah.
Now I'm floating in space, and so the projection of the screen, the projection on the screen. What do you think about this? Apparently, Raman came up with this, and it was quite a cutting edge metaphor for him to come up with at the time, because I just like the trivia of this, that there had been very few movies shown in South India at all when he came up with it. He only knew about movies from reading about them, and maybe someone came by with the projector, but he came up with this analogy, or it was like a modern revision of an old analogy, I'm sure, but that you are the screen, and whatever's projected on the screen comes and goes, but you're essentially what's behind the curtain, which is the screen. What do you think of that metaphor? Did that ever resonate with you? Does it resonate with you now? Did it frustrate you as a seeker to hear that kind of thing?
It felt to me like somebody knew that's what we were, and so that we were that. Those sorts of words, that's what they came across like to me. So I kind of thought, okay, he definitely knows that this is a screen, that we are the screen, and or whatever the analogy is. Whereas I can't say anything like that. I have no idea. But I suppose the transient, you're equally the sound of your voice as the emptiness within that, and even that like is far or too far. If it's everything. So I mean, it's all those sorts of analogies. Like I like Shakespeare's. I think that probably resonated more, that we're all actors on the stage. And I mean, that's that. It seems like that. It's and the much ado about nothing. Those sorts of theatrical words, and this being a theater. But then that suggests that there's something behind the theater, whereas nothing is not a vague thing. Nothing is absolutely nothing. Like so. It's not a vague grey thing, you know what I'm trying to say. So I suppose it's a nice. It's I never really spent the only thing that ever really hit me like a bus in a kind of a way that didn't, pull me in. The only thing that ever was when I read the words somewhere, and I think it was not even the book, but an introduction to Leo Hartong's book, where he said, "There's no one," and that just when I heard that sentence, "There is no one that can become enlightened," or whatever, that kind of just struck more than any other. All the other ones would suggest to me that somebody knew something, or you know what I'm trying to say, and that would kind of give me the impression that there was this knowing in the world, and only a few special people held it, whether it was Eckhart Tolle or whoever it was in a somebody, in the Course in Miracles, somebody got this great, or whichever guru. Always there was an impression that they knew that what this was this or that or whatever, or they could, this idea of awakening and all those words, they were kind of seductive and attractive, but the words, "there is no one," it was the only one that just kind of went, whoa, what the fuck, what's that sentence? What is that? Who would write a sentence like that? It's just beyond the beyond. It's impossible. So that I could say, and I would have read everything, Nisargata, Ramana, and I would have got, it's not that I would have got bored, but it just felt like knowledge in the end. And what, somebody might have interpreted those books, or I've no idea, I was never there. I've never met any of these people, obviously. So
that's my own apparent journey sort of really took off with Ramana years ago, and I think when I first found this book that David Godman compiled of his teachings called "Be As You Are," the book is compiled in such a way where the earlier chapters are his more quote unquote direct message, and then towards the end it's more questions and answers on everything under the sun, categorized like reincarnation and karma and how was the world created and all this kind of stuff. and when I first got the book, I was excited about those last chapters. I was like, oh, what does this guy have to say about reincarnation and karma and samadhi? What is samadhi? And now I find that stuff so boring, and I find that I heard Paul Hederman say this thing that Ramana said. I haven't found the direct quote myself, but he said, some people in his ashram were saying that they wanted to teach, and they said, "Ramana, are we ready to be teachers of this message?" And he said, "Yeah, if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it." And they said, "Why not?" And he said, "Because you have too much compassion, or you have compassion." And they were like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "Well, your compassion is going to make you water down this message." And I feel like Ramana, if that's true, he said that, I think he may have been talking about himself, because elsewhere, because now if I rarely want to read that stuff now, but if I do, I'd probably want to read the first chapter or something like that, where it's pretty similar to what people like Tony say, to be honest, and from my perspective. But Ramana says one thing, that he says that silence is perfect language. And as soon as you add words to it, it's like an electrical current that you're adding resistors to. And silence is the pure electricity. So you can't, as soon as you add words to it, you fuck it up, basically.
Yeah, but you see, you really, I think in that instance, then it makes it seem like silence is it and sound is not. And that's, I think then silence is objectified. Oh, let's all try and be silent so that we can figure it out. But the reality is that it is all happening. And so whatever way you imagine you're going to say it, or think about how it's going to come out, or wonder whether you're going to be silent or whether you're going to say something amazing or whatever, is this unfolding. So it's impossible, because it's just free. But I think within it, there seems to be a certain flavor when when something is not trying to be explained, and when let's say nothing is being talked about, there is a flavor or a kind of an energy where it's totally no agenda, it's totally not owned, it's totally not held or kept or, you know, had by anyone. And I think then it's just impossible for it to be watered down or dressed up, or simply because there is nothing to be said. I think just the meaning drops out of everything. The meaning, or that there definitely could be somebody here that could explain anything, but it's impossible as well. You know, I've wondered about that, because sometimes you hear this description and you kind of go for a moment, wow, that's totally free, that, and then might have a kind of a feel, I might have a feeling in my stomach going, yeah, or but, and then suddenly there's this kind of thing that comes out of, it's just a little bit prescriptive. It just seems to come in there. And then I don't know what that is exactly, where there might, why, because it's just so evident when the driver drops away. It's just impossible for the driver to know where he's going or what he's saying, or that he could show anyone the way, because he doesn't know how he's even talking. Do you know what I mean? So how can he show you the way to, can he show you the way to not talking? Do you know what I'm saying? And not knowing how to talk. He doesn't know how to talk. He doesn't know how to explain this. But then certain words seem to come out. Certain words seem to be similar. Certain words, but like in the end, like it's so, I can see why people don't say a single word. I can see why some people would talk about it. I can see it's just it's just impossible though. So anything can happen in free fall.
Yeah, so yeah, the word that's been resonating for me recently is both, which is funny because it's duality, both, this and that, you know, free fall and not moving, everything falling away and nothing to fall away, you know, because somehow when you land on one description, this is just something my brain has come up with, but who knows if it's true or not. But it appears to me like the most direct pointers, quote unquote, to this are simultaneously the most dualistic. Like if someone were to call this emptiness as opposed to fullness, you know, or this is no one as opposed to someone, you know. I think this is, and I remember hearing years ago, this is why in Sanskrit they came up with the word Advaita, which translates to not two or non-duality, is because the idea was if they were to say this is all one or this is nothing, that implies that there's the opposite still. So the closest you could get with language might be to say this is not two, or this is both. As Jim sometimes says, this is both and neither. And also something you said, it reminded me of this one talk of Tony that I really liked. I thought it was really funny. He said this thing, he said that him and Claire sometimes wonder why anybody comes to their meetings, because there's nothing to get. You know, there's just nothing to get there. They wonder why anybody comes at all and flies to England, or, you know, or wherever he is. But he says, but then simultaneously, they also wonder why the whole world doesn't come, because it's such an exciting message. It's this apparent paradox, maybe.
Yeah, well, in a way, you could say it's unbelievable that everybody's not talking about that. Talking is happening. I mean, how is everybody so, you know, the world is going around, everybody's so certain about everything. And the fact that anything is happening at all is, you know, the elephant in the room is the room. And so, you know, if that's the case, it's amazing that everybody's not going, what the fuck? Look, this, look. And at the same time, yeah, I suppose, yeah. Okay, great. That's great, Frank. Thanks for that. Can we just get back to the TV program, though? You know, or whatever. So, yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, it's not like we're talking about anything. We're talking about talking. and we're talking about the we're talking about the sentence. We're talking about the sentence. You know, we're talking about this. So then, I just haven't a clue. Like, it seems like what is there to be said? And you could say, well, this is nothing. We are talking about nothing, or this is nothing being talked about. But it's still a sound with words coming out of it, and it's. But in a way, the phenomenality is the inexplicable something happening, and there seems to be a bit of wonder with that, but then that's another spontaneous happening, that somehow it's wonder. This is wonder, but then wonder sounds like a word that makes it seem something that you worth having. When how can you have it? You are it. Like this is it. You know, how can you have anything? So, which party gets to have it? Is it the sound of your voice? Is it the thought that you had? Is it the hair? Which party gets to own something happening, or own the mystery? Where are you, like, you know? So it's I don't know, man. It's the gift that keeps on giving, because I haven't a clue.
I love hearing how you talk about this, Frank. All I can say is it resonates thoroughly. And so you were also in this other documentary recently, which I haven't watched yet, but I'd like to, where you were one of the subjects being filmed on a journey somewhere overseas, maybe taking the toad venom, the 5-MeO-DMT. By the way, full disclosure, I've smoked DMT and 5-MeO-DMT in the past and had experiences with that years prior to any interest in this. But so, yeah, I'm curious, since you've had sort of the opposite order, where you seem to have had this, what some call a shift of perspective or whatever, or a dropping away of me that was never there or whatever. And it seemed, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you went on this incredible journey overseas to have the 5-MeO-DMT and be filmed with two other gentlemen after having had the shift that there are no things, there is no one. Am I correct? And what was this experience like after already seeing?
Well, let's park that idea for the moment. But if you're asking me about the documentary, that was 2 years ago. So I was doing it to try and see this in a way. I was trying to kind of, I was a seeker, and I thought, right, well, I've tried absolutely everything. I'm going to try 5-MeO because that sounds like a way for this to whatever. And I mean, I would, yeah.
Now I'm wondering. No, it's funny because I instantly now I'm thinking, oh, so now people who are watching this are going to think, oh, that was shortly before he had the shift. So maybe the 5-MeO helped change something in his perspective. What?
Yeah, but I had a bowl of cornflakes that morning at 7:05, and I had coffee. So they're going to have that too, if they do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
what were you wearing? What were you wearing?
Yeah, black. Yeah. Knowing me, but it's a certain type of black. But you know what I mean?
What shade of black? Can you upload that hue to your?
No, I will. I definitely will do that. So, and I put the brand of cornflakes, because I think that might have been the final touch. You know, I mean, isn't it the funny thing though? Like, that's the way you would be. It's okay. So he did X and Y, but I'm not going to talk about that time where he had a toasted sandwich, and the toasted sandwich, part of the toasted sandwich got caught in his teeth. How do I replicate that? Because was that not just as important? Or when he was 5, you know, whatever. So that's the funny thing. We just love headlines. We just love we love the top line story, and that and it has to have a kind of a happy ending. and then then it's worth hearing about, you know. So I did that 2 years ago, and I definitely was what you would call a seeker. And in the movie, in a way, well, I'm not going to say much about the movie, but it's neither here nor there. But when, let's say, seeking ended, I definitely said at the time that it was obvious that, and thankfully, it was in spite of absolutely everything that I had apparently done. Maybe, and the seeing then was, sure, what the fuck, what did I do? You know what I mean? The seeing is there was never anyone. That's the end of, there is nobody. So it's impossible, because it's impossible because we're talking about the moment you say, oh, it's about, or, you know, there's someone and somebody fell away, or liberation or whatever. Hearing there is no one, already it's over, already nobody doing the seeking. That sentence, that's the beginning and end of it. That's the beginning and end of the seeing. But you could also say that the seeking somehow then appears to stop, but nobody was doing the seeking and nobody took 5-MeO. But you see, when I used to hear that sentence, what I used to hear was, okay, well, that's a nobody, that's a somebody who's a nobody. You know what I mean? Because it's impossible. But, you know, yet there is certain things that the brain can accept, that it's not doing anything about growing the hair, or, you know, making the eyes blink, or the eyes move, or the hands and the nails grow. That nobody is doing the thought, nobody's doing the thinking, or nobody's doing the feeling, or growing the grass or the leaves, or, you know. That part is, you see, when somebody says that, or when those words are spoken, it sounds like, okay, that's, somebody knows that. And so then that's why you could just go, well, okay, whatever. You know,
well, Frank, this brings to mind something I'd like to have you respond to, maybe. Because what this brings to mind for me is, well, yeah, Paul Hederman is someone that probably the last person I was really listening to a lot as a seeker. And he said a few little things that just, I don't know, I can't say anything caused anything at all, but a couple things that I liked that he said, where he said that, like, the sense of a separate self, or whatever you want to call it, this sense of a somebody or me, it's the only thing in the universe that has the gall or the balls to say that it's a nobody or nothing, to claim ownership of nothing, or to say, so his approach is to, which I don't think there's a right or wrong approach. There is no approach. But the way he does his meetings is, he says he doesn't like to talk about what you are, because what you're not will claim it. And he talks about, he says it's like this, it's noticing what you're not, then maybe something else might happen, which is also what I sense from someone like Tony or Jim. They're just constantly chopping heads off, saying, no, that's not it, there's nothing to get, no one to get it, just constantly. And then maybe something shifts, apparently. And so is this what happened for you? Was there a moment when things shifted, apparently, or how would you put that?
Oh, sure, it's all a story, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter really, because let's say 20 years ago, the wind, or the wind blew the fucking front door off the hinges. Something happened, and then I kind of was just blown away by the idea of being alive, and I was trying to figure out a way to understand what the fuck this is, and everybody seemed to know something. Everybody everywhere seemed to know something. And even then, when I'd see websites or even when that kind of stopped, it just bothered me. Like, even if I found it very attractive, it always was, there was a sort of a seduction. Like, whether, it was, you're here to fulfill the divine purpose of the universe, or whatever beautiful sentence that you might stumble across.
Yeah.
Well, it was something magical and mystical about all those sorts of things, but it always, in the end, then I was never very good at getting in the now, because I'd always be busy doing something. and I try and get in the now in 15 minutes time, and
how do I get in this now?
Yeah, how do I get? I'm going to do a really good job in 15 minutes of being in the now. I'm going to really brilliant.
I've only got 15 minutes. How do I do it?
No, I am in a rush. I can't. I'll be in the now later, and and like, you know, even things like Osho's 1,000 Book of Secrets. Oh, in that he starts with, you know, the Book of Secrets. In here, there's 1,000 meditations, and one of them should work for you. If not, enlightenment is not for you. And well, I tried a good few of them. So I tried a good fucking few of those. I was industrious. But even when I heard Tony Parsons say there's no one, I thought, well, he must know there's no one. Now, at the same time, when I read what Leo Hartong said, I met Leo in a cafe, even I felt, well, they must have a different life, or they must know what the fuck this is. I'm a terrible bad language, sorry about that. And they must know, you know, they've written a book out, there's websites, they must know, all the while ignoring it's not even that I haven't a clue, you know, it's not, there is no one. This is impossible. This is total unknowing. And this is all the while I felt, well, they must know that it's unknowing. And in a way, really, they were kind of utterly got in whatever you could, this is a story, but you could say that they absolutely got in the way of, for me, seeing, they got in the way because in a way I thought, well, they must know something. So I was like, you know, somebody with a carrot stuck on my head, and every time I take a step forward, the carrot would step away from my head. And all the while there was a carrot stuck on my head going, nobody knows that. This is total unknowing. It's not about words. It's not about anything. All the while. So you could say that actually they didn't at all help. But as good as words can go, you can, you know, they were as good as it can be, because literally they were utterly starving any kind of seeking movement. They were utterly starving the businessman Frank, who was trying to figure this out, squeeze his way in through the gateless gate. That was starved. All the while, though, it was kind of, and even though, like, and all I'd get ever was, well, that's what's happening, Frank. That's how you're feeling. And that was total love. That was total love in the absolute description of, this is totally happening by itself. This is totally happening by itself. This is total free fall. This is totally, free fall is another word, but this is just totally happening. And it's not even by itself, and it's not even totally happening. It's just words and sounds and whatever, and blah, blah, blah. But it's total freedom, though. In a way, the freedom is that there's nothing being communicated. There's no attempt to want to convey anything, because really this is total cluelessness. It's not held. There's nothing in here that's a bank of knowledge. There's no preparation of anything that can be said or communicated or conveyed. It's a total emptiness and poverty, but it seems to come across like certainty, maybe, or it seems to come across like, oh, certain way the words are being described or said, but really, no, nothing is being said, and it's not a thing that's nothing that's been said. It's absolutely nothing. It's a kind of maybe at its very best. There's a sort of a kind of a wow about any kind of this fucking this thing seems to be happening. This conversation here, or this newness, but newness makes it sound brand spanking new. Well, it's getting old too, you know. This is aging, and you know, being dragged to the ground and gonna whatever. So it's everything, but the gift in a way is that it's total unknowing and can't be held or owned by anybody, and that's where it's brand spanking new. It's just total, and any word like emptiness becomes objectified. Oh, it's emptiness. Oh, it's nothing. Well, it's both emptiness and nothing. Oh, what do you do with that? I can never do anything with full and empty. Either tell me it's empty or tell me it's full. Don't tell me it's both at the same time. But even
Yeah.
saying it's both at the same time makes it seem like, oh, this is
Yeah.
more knowledge. What you're getting here is total blah blah
Well,
blah. Anyway.
yeah, no, you're pointing to that there is no word for this. No matter
Oh,
where.
in a
there is,
way, I'm not pointing to anything. I'm not describing anything. I'm not doing anything at all. But I mean, what we're talking about is talking, and that
yeah,
seems to be somewhat at this moment in time. This seems to be a bit of a. It's amazing that somebody like this character would have any interest in this, really, because entrepreneur, that sort of vibe about fucking making shit and getting shit and making money and all that sort of thing. And this is a description of this. What is this description even? What are we even talking about? I don't know.
well, okay.
I mean, it's amazing that a conversation like this can happen, though, because it's totally crazy. It's a wonderfully, stunningly crazy too.
Yeah, I think this is what UG was meaning when he said called this all the barking of a dog. You know, it's just ordinary. The elephant in the room is the room, as you say. You know, we're talking about talking, as you say. Yeah, gosh, I just had 3 topics I want to get to now from everything you just said. One, and I'll probably forget 2 of them, but I'll ask you this. So, yeah, I think you're great with titles, Frank. I really like the name of your monthly meeting for nothing, Unknowing. I love that word, Unknowing. I think it's a beautiful word, a beautiful name for the meeting you host. And this is your first time hosting meetings at all, like of groups. And I'm just curious what that's been like so far.
Well, it's very interesting just how it happened, because like Emerson sent me a message and then I was there going, oh God, sure, I have nothing to say. And then I typed yes. It's not like, I still was going, oh no, oh fuck, what the fuck am I doing writing that? And, but I said, well, sure, look, let's see what happens. And so I couldn't see, who knows, but I couldn't see, me wanting to kind of push it out there or do so. Really, it's down to Emerson asking, and I saying yes, and then it's funny, like the title, I really have no idea where that came about. All I know is I bought a URL called unknowing.life, and I loved the fact that the URL was available, because I couldn't get unknowing.com, and then somehow nobody buys the .life URL, so I got unknowing.life, and I thought, well, that's kind of pretty cool. So I bought that.
Yeah,
but
cool.
Yeah. And how's it been? It's kind of like this is the same, like, in a way, it's kind of like being out drunk on a night out, kind of going, and after the meeting I kind of go, oh God, what did I say? I mean, there's no way I'd watch it back, but that's just a kind of a character sort of analytical, and that goes on maybe for whatever amount of time. What was the tone about? Like, Sure, not talking about anything. So
yeah,
that's what. So what it's like. It's like being drunk on a night out, and because they've no really idea, and there's a kind of an energy, a bit of fun to it, and I'm amazed that. Some ways, it's amazed that there's anybody asking any questions, or that it is a lovely, amazing thing to have a conversation about, in a way, is sharing, because there's no authority. There's no way of. I think the freedom is that, like, all of that dies. That's the beautiful. Not owned, not held. If it was held, it could be a bank of words. I'd have to get it right, like. And if I had to get it right, there's no way. There's no way. If it was a thing that was known, or it was about anything that we were talking about, it just wouldn't happen. Anyway, I mean, that's neither here nor there, that sentence, but it's just.
I get it. Yeah. I get it. It's and this seeking energy that used to be there, that's no longer what's driving you to do these things, apparently. What the 20, you said you had this experience 20 years ago, and then there was the seeking through all these different things and experience. What are your thoughts on this notion of, like,
it's funny, I say that now though. It's funny,
Yeah.
I say about the 20 years ago now. At the time, I don't know what I would say about it. I mean, it was a lot of kind of anxiety. It was, I just suddenly couldn't believe that something was happening and it wasn't something that was talked about. And then I kind of just had to go, like the sounds come out of my mouth and I'd almost have a, what the fuck, how the fuck am I talking? And it's like learning how to, not learning how to talk, because there's no learning involved, but it was definitely a shock. Sometimes the shock is kind of greater or more about, is shock the wrong word? I don't know. Just that there's
shock.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah,
like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
How's there anything happening? But it's a gentle, yeah. But so I kind of refer to that. I find myself talking about that, whereas I wouldn't have. I'd look back. I just know that the really maybe there was just a kind of an intellectual thing playing out then. For I don't know.
And
I mean, the brain doesn't get this. Like the mind doesn't get this. That's impossible. Because you're used to knowing the world. Like the mind is like a gnawing, and everything is knowable. This is a flask, and this is a table, but this before knowing the fucking phenomenality. It's for the looped thinking pattern that seems to kind of rest and digest and whatever, take things in. That's just so beyond the mind, and yet includes the mind, and it's the spontaneity of that. It's sorry.
And what do you think about different ways of this being expressed? Like you said earlier, that it does seem to you like some words, I don't remember how you put it, but some maybe resonate more for you than others. But
it's not what there's something in the expression that I could read 3 or 4 lines of what somebody wrote, and I'd go, they could be talking about carrots and broccoli. And it's the freedom. You can kind of just get the lack of I don't know. That sounds, it's a bit of a story too, but I would kind of get this sense. I've been wrong also too, because you've just no idea. But there is a sense of freedom when nothing is being talked about, and it's not a thing that's nothing. When nothing is being talked about, it's just that kind of freedom, and it's almost confrontational. It's almost like it's so raw, but they could equally be just sounding off about anything. And I'd kind of get a sense. That's what I'm kind of saying. There is something.
It could be about anything.
Could be about anything, yeah. Because everything is this anyway. But so there wouldn't, yeah.
Well, Frank, on that note, I've been watching, a few hours of you like over the past couple of years, and I like your taste in music. There, you got the Pixies and Belle and Sebastian behind you.
Yeah, very good. And the National.
I love the National. Oh, that's the Smiths. I was wondering. And is that Larry David next to the Wizard of Oz?
Larry David, yeah. My wife bought me that. I think that's a reflection of what she thinks I'm growing into. Yeah, I think I love Larry. I mean, do you like Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. Larry. Fucking Larry. Yeah. No doubt about that.
So it's true. We could talk about what kind of tea you enjoy, or your taste in music or movies. Or we could talk about how the me has apparently fallen away, or your 5-MeO experience. But to the seeker, I guess, I don't know. It's like there's no question here. It's just lovely. It's really nice to talk to people who are not there, for lack of a better word, or who are there and okay with whatever's there, and that it's not knowable. These words are just so clumsy and beautiful at the same time. It's like the ordinary and the extraordinary, you know, that's why I like this word both. But yeah, I know if I say it too often, you know, then people are going to think, oh, how do I get to see both? And you can't. The mind can't see anything about what's really going on. That's kind of the point. The brain evolved apparently to eat, you know, to survive, for food, sex, shelter. You know, this is all for the survival of the species. It's all programmed in from nature, apparently. So what evolutionary incentive is there to see what reality really is, or that there is no you or reality? There's this recent, I forget his name, but there's a recent neuroscientist that's come out with a popular book about this from a very grounded neuroscience perspective, where basically the research shows that the human brain, you know, and perhaps all brains, they don't evolve to have an accurate picture of reality. They evolve to be efficient, because there's a limited amount of energy, you know, going through the body at any point in time, and that needs to be used to survive, not to know what's happening. And if not, and that to suggest that it's even knowable, yeah, I'm not, yeah, you know, but that's what humans are going to do. That's what they're going to do. They're going to create supercomputers. You know, we're going to attach something to our frontal lobe to be even smarter, to memorize more language, detect more refined, complex patterns. And we're, you know, if we survive and don't kill ourselves, maybe. But, you know, and there's always going to be this seeking for more knowledge, more expression. Like, I love music, I love comedy, I love movies, and I know that there's never going to be a best movie or an end to movies or end to music. There's always a next. And yet that's all just, I don't even know what I'm saying, Frank, but feel free to respond to any of that.
Yeah, well, nobody's doing anything though, you see, so that's the beginning and end of it, really. In a way, you know, that's it. So nobody's growing the grass, the leaves, or thinking those thoughts, or saying all that you've said there. That's the wonder of this. So it is totally free. And even the attempt to know it, like, nobody knows how to be someone, and nobody knows how to be no one. Already there's no one already. So it's the beginning and end of the universe that, and if that is the message, then that's the message, you know, really. But message sounds like it's coming from someone to be communicated, but it seems like that's something that's coming out of my mouth. And I can't believe that I would say something like this, but it seems to be something that's coming out of my mouth. And it's unbelievable. It's like, you know, you can see this image of the blue dunes of Mars, and there's no one in the entire universe. No one. It's totally empty and full to the brim with the fucking blue dunes of Mars. It is outrageous. It's the garden of, this is the for never after. Nobody's doing the blue dunes, and nobody's driving the dream bus or thinking the thoughts or feeling the feelings. Tell me how to feel a feeling or think a thought. Tell me how you do it. You have no idea about even, like, I mean, where does the mystery beginning end? You could look under your fingernail and you have the entire fucking, you have no idea. You just no idea about anything. This is total poverty and unknowing. So, but then there seems to be a bit of playfulness about that, and a bit of crack, and a bit of freedom, or whatever you want to say. But it's the beginning and the end of this is, and that is somehow the freedom to say the universe is totally empty. Wow. Totally and utterly empty. But then, of course, saying the universe is totally empty is a total story, like, because you're kind of stepping away, and you're moving away, and you're kind of calling the thing, this is a universe then, Frank, is it? It's not even. I haven't a clue what this is. It's total and utter unknowing.
Yeah.
Total and complete. And baby, but then there are people that come along and go, well, I know it's the universe. All right, great. This is the universe then. This is life. Call it death. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if someone were to say this is, you know, vibration, this is the mind, this is energy, this, all of that is included in unknowing. It's all unknowing is inclusive of all apparent things, because it's all truly unknowable and unknowing. These are just the barking of a dog. And
yeah, I think the meaning drops out of everything. In a way, the meaning or the meaning maker drops out of the sounds. So it doesn't matter really what's being said. But I mean, there is a kind of a, you know, we've all agreed it's a flask. Okay, it's a flask. We've all agreed this is life. We're calling it life. So it's a real, definitely life. You know, I think somehow there is something maybe in the when story, but like, you know, the meaning maker drops away. So then the meaning is gone. But yet life is what it is then. However it is, saying shit like this. You see, there's no responsibility then as well. You know, there's no responsibility because nothing is being conveyed or described or, you know, there's no, it's not like, I mean, I use the word message, but there isn't a message. So here we are though.
yeah. So I just want to briefly touch on this thing that, you know, whenever it's said that there's no responsibility, you know, some people will think, oh, well, there's this long history of people saying things like this that have then used, like, applied non-duality, so to speak, like have used that sort of thing as a, you know, excuse to get out of trouble. You know, of course, you're not a guru with, you know, an underage harem, but I'm just saying, you know, that this is, it's interesting that, you know, there's just so many examples of corruption throughout history, and every position of power and everything that people in power can use to get more power or to get away with things, they tend to do, you know.
Yeah,
and
this
is what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, in a way, this freedom or anarchy is always misheard. It's always heard as like
nihilism. You're being nihilistic.
Oh yeah, you're being nihilist. I could just go out and kill somebody now. That's the best one.
Yeah.
And as opposed to going, well, maybe you might go out and fucking love someone. Maybe you might go and give all your money away. You know, maybe you will do something like that. Who knows, though? Maybe you will go out and kill someone. This is a description of what's appearing to happen. And the responsibility include, or the lack of responsibility includes responsibility too, because that can happen. You know, it's not owned. It's not. It can't be held or claimed. But the freedom is, you know, whatever is appearing to happen.
Yeah, and that could include anger, depression,
total sorrow, addiction. Yeah, responsibility. You know, making sure the kids wash their teeth, looking after. Whatever, you know, wash your teeth. I've told you, wash your teeth. You know what I mean? So that's why, that's where it's misheard as somehow, you know, it's always misheard because you see, this is heard as a thing, and so like non-duality is put into another subject that can be, the person can hold on and go, now, Asher, I know non-duality. I know there's no one. Just stop. Don't say another word. Stop. And it's nobody knows there's no one. There's no one. Who knows there's no one? Who knows there's no one? That's another story then. So where is the someone that knows there's no one? And it just becomes so distorted, you know. And I kind of find that interesting, where it's heard as nihilism, or it's the lack of responsibility is heard, which I could just go off and do. You know, I could leave my wife or whatever people might say. Oh, that's so funny. That maybe you leave your wife.
There's a tradition of that in India,
or maybe I won't. You know,
it's interesting. Is that actually there's a tradition of that has nothing to do with this, in my opinion. It's just that was the cultural tradition for some reason for a lot of people who hear a message like this to leave their family, go into the forest. You know, the Upanishads, which is, you know, some say one of the oldest books that touches on any of this. That title, Upanishads, literally means like listening to people who are listening to forest dwellers, because there was this idea as far back as then that you had to leave everything. You had to just live in the forest, leave behind everything. People are always trying to grasp and call it something, and then tell you there's a method to get there, and
they want something to do, like, you know. Don't tell me it's already there. Don't tell me I'm already home. You must know I'm already home. And in a way, like, it is. You see, sometimes I hear it and I kind of go, yeah, it is amazing that it's available. This is totally the only place you get this sort of, as you are, it's immaculate, and whatever is appearing to happen is fucking beyond compare. And there's no attempt to want to change or help or fix. It's the only show in town where that seems to be not the case. There's no even small, subtle going, well, if you just do, what are you talking about? Like, if you just do what? I don't even know how to say if you just do. I don't even know how any of this is operating. So it just seems to all, you know, in a way, it's kind of beautiful. It's funny, like, it's kind of beautiful because it's the only show in town where there's nothing on offer. There's no, and it's not anybody's, nobody's trying to fix anything, and it is totally useless. Like, it's so stunningly useless. It's but
well, Frank, I think I'm going to watch that 5-MeO DMT documentary, and this has nothing to do with non-duality or anything or nothing, but I'm curious, what was your experience at the time from the 5-MeO, and then I'm curious about that. Did you see colors? Did you have visions? Was there a story? Was there a physical sensation that was unique?
Well, I mean, I have to kind of look back over the footage and then going on memory, but I when I was asked the question, so you inhale the substance, and what happened next? You went from inhaling, and I said, well, I'm giving the movie, but I said to everything. So they're kind of dramatic enough words. I mean, there's the sense of extending for eternity, and eternity and eternity extending and being beyond compare enormous. And still, and it was a phenomenal, I mean, you look at, it's up there with the top 5 or 6 experiences in my life. It wasn't necessarily good. It was, I wouldn't repeat it, really. It's, you know, Boris described it as existentially violent, and I think existentially violent is a pretty good way to describe.
This sounds like the way Nancy describes some things, like where she'll describe her experience as not with psychedelics, but with her parent falling away. She describes it as it was incredibly painful and like an evisceration, like her intestines were being ripped out and she was being skinned alive, and no one would want that, but that's what it was.
Yeah, well, I can relate to fear, and but I mean, there does come a point where you really don't want to hear this anymore. You kind of want, you realize that non-duality, if it's uncompromising, offers you absolutely nothing. And I mean, everybody's different, but I can remember a distinct sort of sense. I can remember going, oh, okay, can I not know about non-duality anymore? Can I not? Because really, there was nothing, and I couldn't get my. Anyway, so I can kind of remember a little bit of that in later months. And
when you came back to your home in where do you live again? What city?
In Ireland, Dublin.
In Dublin.
But this after 5-MeO now. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you came back to Dublin, back to your regular life, what was there? What was it? I guess what I'm wondering is, did you feel change at the time, or did you feel a frustration at all that you wanted that you don't have that experience you had when you were doing the 5-MeO, or was there anything like that? Any
I
change?
think I was kind of, if there was anything left in terms of that, there was maybe some. You see, I was away with, there was a big build up to the trip away, and then there was the experience, which is a big experience, and then I was coming back home, and I think I was kind of like, okay, back to daily life and the grind, and there's a bit of integration, we'll say. But there was also, I mean, there's a part in the movie I'm not going to give away because that's giving it away. Which
Okay, don't give it away.
No, I don't want to give it away. Boris will kill me. But I would say there's a bit of disappointment. Like, I wrote a large essay about the whole experience, and that there's no way you could capture it in the movie. It was too fucking crazy. And then there was the months and time afterwards where I was kind of going, you know, I remember doing a few podcasts, and I had nothing to. I did one with Richard Sylvester. I did a little short film called Breakfast with No One or something like that. And I went over to meet Richard, and really it was obvious there was no questions, but still you could say that I was kind of, and I had some, you could describe some of the 5-Meo experience very similar to mystical experiences.
Yeah.
But they were still, it was obviously just experiences. And then that was, in a way, it's funny when I start talking in the stories just to get all, but like, if I had got something out of that Meo, I probably would be going back to do the Meo, thinking there was a way. So, and then you could say that the end is just kind of like, oh, no gas left in the tank, and here's solar powered Frank. That was always solar powered Frank being Frank. Do you know what I mean? But there was a lot, if you want a bit of drama, there was a load of fear. Like, there was, I mean, waking up in the middle of the night and I just not wanting to know anything about non-duality again, but I couldn't undo, I couldn't get rid of it. I couldn't get rid of, it's a bit of fear. And I remember going, who the fuck would want to know about this? Who life is gone, having a life, you know, the year, Earth, this is real. Everything taken. It wasn't so pleasant. But then,
it goes back, but it does go back to that thing Tony and Claire were saying. Maybe that who would want to hear this, and yet who wouldn't? It somehow both feel true. Because like, as soon as you start talking about this, Frank, the experience, I have these sensations in my body. Like, I feel this something in my heart, something with energy, something, and I don't think that means anything. It might be because I took allergy medicine this morning, or coffee, or I have no idea what it. You know what I mean? But
it's definitely the coffee and the allergy medicine.
Well, I'm glad we narrowed it down. But I guess that's the funny thing is, or, you know, I fall in love with someone, and then there's this experience, or there's a breakup and there's this experience, and life is just full of these apparent experiences that happen through the body. Language is the body. Everything at the end of the day is the body. And you were saying if there was something you got out of that meal, you would have gone back to it. But this is what life is as a whole. Life is just meals coming, like Nisargadatta said, that this is everything is food going in and food going out. He said that's all anything is. A parent on the level of being a parent. And of course but that's not saying it's a thing. That's just describing an apparent process. Like when Tony describes people who come to his meetings, that the seeking energy is being starved, which you brought up earlier, that there was nothing to get with Tony. But in a sense, that does sound like a meal of sorts you know, like sort of paradoxically a meal of being starved, like you went on a juice
Yeah,
fast,
it's
know?
impossible. You see, in a way, it's impossible
Yeah.
because, like we said, if there's silence, then silence is objectified. Oh, he must be in a state of bliss. If there's words being said, then it's in the words. It's not as the words. It's not the shock of the sound of words appearing to be said. It's not that. It's not that there's nothing being said. It's that he's saying a sentence that there's nothing being said, and I want to know what it's like to say the sentence there's nothing to be said. And it's like, you know, it's like trying to have a steak. I want to go to a restaurant and have that gorgeous steak that such and such is talking about, you know. And so, but that's how it is. It seems to be like that. And
people can't help it. It's like a monkey mirror, whatever you want to call it, mirror neurons, monkey see, monkey do, you know, genetically programmed maybe to follow the alpha that says there's something over there, and so then everyone goes over there. Maybe they all die off a cliff. Maybe they
I have no idea how it is for
well, I guess what's coming to mind is that some amount of people, maybe 1, maybe 10, are like, who watch this documentary, or maybe who hear this even, like might, you know, be like, I hear everything Frank's saying, there's nothing to get, there's no meal there, but some amount of seeking people are going to be like, well, I'll give it a shot. Maybe if I have the 5-MeO, then I'm going to get shocked out of knowing there's a me, and then I'm going to be talking like Frank, and we live happily ever after.
Yeah. And like, it's not even saying there's nothing to get, you know, it's there's no one, so there's no one that can get, there's no one there already. There's no one doing the seeking, and there's no one that'll find. That's because all of that just, but like the thing as well is, it appears like when life seems to advertise itself as being life and a place to get to, and, you know, or I mean, it seems to advertise itself in becoming everywhere. It just does it in every single thing, whether it's, that seems to be life marketing itself as a place to become and get and whatever. And really, when the word, even when the words are heard, or, you know, when you stumble upon the sounds that come across, like there is no one doing anything. even that there is no one, and there's nothing to get, or whatever the fuck, but there is no one really. But even that is objectified. So nobody becomes enlightened, nobody is seeking, and nobody finds. It's already the case, like, so it's totally free. It's also total poverty. It's, you know, when yeah, I don't know, man. You know,
well, is there anything that you would want to say directly to someone that maybe would want to try to repeat, you know, the 5-MeO thing, or they think they need to start interviewing 70 different people talking about nothing? Like, anyone who thinks,
don't forget about the cornflakes. Don't forget about the cornflakes.
Don't forget. Okay, yeah, that's the important bit. Yeah, don't forget about
the coffee compulsion.
Gosh,
yeah.
that sums it up. That perfect answer. So, yeah, that's really important.
Is there anything that I know?
You don't know anything.
No. Is there? The chances are, if somebody said to me that they wanted to come along and they want to go and do 5-MeO, I go, okay. And if they asked me a description of it, I probably would give a description of it. And somebody asked me, you know, Frank, what the fuck is this here? I go, I don't know. More than likely. But if somebody said to me, is there a way to this? And I probably would reply, how can you get to asking the question? How do you get to asking the question? Is there a way to get to this? You know, how do you get to here? Like, how do you get to the sounds coming out of your mouth? How did you get here? So how are you going to get to there? You're not even here. Like, you're not even doing the asking of that question. So, you know, and then it'll be shut up, or it'll be what? More than likely it'll be, yeah, I know, like, I know what you're saying. I know you're saying there's no one. I know, I've heard that. I know that. Don't say it again, though. It's funny that, isn't it? Like, is this, it's kind of like, because I used to hate this too. Like, I mean, they're there in the interviews, I'm sure. If I look back, I'm not looking back on it, but I used to absolutely hate this message. And I used to absolutely hate somebody saying, Tony Parsons said to me, there's nobody there asking that question. And I go, yeah, shut the. I mean, I know what you're saying. I know you like all that. There's no one stuff, but just stop saying it.
Yeah.
In a way, because there's nothing I could do with that. Nothing I could do with that. So.
Yeah, what can you do with it?
Well, you're not there, like. You're never going to be there, like. You don't know how you're being someone, and you're not going to be able to be no one either.
And like you're saying, how did you get to the point of asking a question? Who's asking a question?
How do you get to here? How did you get to here? Like, how do you get to whatever question is what's happening? So I have no idea how you got to be able to ask that question. I mean, and we can go down the story road and all that. But
so I just have a couple final questions. I want.
You're great. You're great with the questions.
Oh, yeah.
You're really good. Yeah, it's impressive.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. Yeah. Well, you interviewed Michael, Nancy, and quite a few members from the Exploding Rainbows group, some who no one else has really talked to, like Antonia Lovejoy, and I think we both interviewed Wilder around the same time. I think I interviewed him the week after you, actually. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But this message from Michael and Nancy, the way they talk about it might appear slightly different on the surface. And I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on Michael's emphasis of the humanness? And he likes to talk about how he loves his longing. It's just he doesn't long for an end to seeking anymore. Now there's just a longing for another cactus, or he just got a new Xbox and he can't wait to play new video games. And Nancy talks about how I am this longing, I am this, story, and that's her way of talking. And she's saying, you are this, Michael talks about the conceptual overlay, and there's nothing behind that, and I'm wondering if you'd like to comment on any of those things they say.
Yeah, I suppose in a way, the only thing I could say is that it's not really in the words that they're saying, so it doesn't matter. The kind of, however it seems to come out of there, I suppose I kind of just get that sense, which, you just kind of get the sense of this. So like Nancy's like a waterfall of, but like it just seems to pour out of her. She's a poet, like she probably would. She's so, and I think Mike. I don't know, like, but you see, you have no idea what's happened, like.
Yeah.
But Michael just seems to be loving the fact that that there's these sorts of communications happening, or these sorts of discussions happening.
He's also.
I don't really know about. I can't really comment on that.
That's fine. Yeah, just
not talking about anything.
What's that?
They're not talking about anything. So then it's freedom to be whatever it is that they seem to be saying. He says things like conceptual overlay and all that. I have no idea about anything like that. But I kind of can grasp what he's talking about.
He also describes himself as, he says it feels like being a dog off the leash on the beach. Just running up to people, running around, it's the freedom of that. And and I think
that's nice.
Yeah, and you're right. And I think of Nancy, I've called her like she, to me, she feels like the Jimi Hendrix of this non-dual speaker world. Just these endless, multicolored guitar solos of, psychedelia, and not pointing anywhere, not saying anything, but it's just colors and words and flow.
Yeah, and, I kind of like Nancy is kind of like, gentle and ferocious at the same time. It's all kind of, and she goes, well, I don't know, it's just words. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
She doesn't give a shit either. Like, you know, there's the kind of that, but yet utter sensitivity, and I don't know. I mean, maybe there's difference in. Oh, see, you quickly make something out of nothing, but there you could say there's a flavor that's different in female versus male. Is that true? I don't know. Maybe it's just the characters then, and it's just the characters, isn't it?
Well, Frank, now I want to just throw this UG quote out there real quick, because where he says that if this happens to you, what doesn't really happen, it will show up in a way that has never been experienced or expressed before. And he said, you know, like, it's like how could a rose, like one flower is a rose, another is a sunflower, is one more right than the other? But how could they be? But that doesn't mean they might not have preferences or opinions about this other flower. I'm summarizing this quote from him, but I like this notion of, I don't know why I like it, but I it's just how I am. I like individual expression. I like, you know, heavy music and light music. I like, you know, I watched a horror film the other night and I love Wizard of the Oz. I mean, I like variety. The character likes variety, however you want to put that. But I know that there's nothing to get and there's no correct any. I'm at a loss for words, but yeah.
I mean, just there is no one though.
There's no one. No.
It's not even that there's nothing to get, because then it becomes, oh, there's nothing to get. I just, you know, there's no one in there to gain from this. I mean, and if there is, just point, you know, let me know where he is. But yeah, there's definitely different flavors. I mean, and there's definitely some that would resonate versus others. You could say certain ones that certain people out there.
Frank,
it's more preferences, isn't it? Really, you know, there's something out there, that I kind of go, yeah, I really just can't listen to you for too long because of just doesn't resonate.
Frank, feel free to disagree with me if this doesn't resonate, but this is why the word both resonates so deeply right now for me, is because there's no one there and no one to get anything. And it's not even that, and yet there are these different flavors. It's both. It just is. I can't deny my hand is here, but I don't know that my hand, I don't know anything at the same time. It's both. I don't know. That
for you, for you it's both. For me, I mean, for you it's both.
Even though there is no me, but yes, for me, yes.
Yeah, for you there's both. I mean, it's just another word, and it's just another word. It's just another word, yeah.
Absolutely.
It doesn't touch touching.
It does not touch anything. It's totally bullshit. I'm not pointing to anything. You're absolutely right. Okay, so my last question, I just want to say before we end, just movies. I wanted to recommend a movie to you if you hadn't seen it. I was wondering if you'd like to maybe mention any movies you like. There's this movie called In and of Itself that came out recently. Have you heard of it?
No.
Oh, no, I highly recommend it to you and anyone else watching. It's a beautiful movie made by a stage magician. So it's kind of part magic show, part documentary, part story. It's a very unique film. Okay. It's called In and of Itself.
Okay.
And it brought tears to my eyes, and others I've recommended it to. It's really.
You might say, I typed it into IMDb and I couldn't find it, but I'll go looking somewhere else. Where did you see it? Where did you watch it?
In the States, it's on Hulu. But you could find it somewhere. If you can't find it, send me a message and I'll help. Yeah, okay. But In and of Itself. So just wanted to say that's a beautiful movie. I recommend. I was curious, do you have any favorite films or movies you've seen recently you'd like to recommend?
Oh, well, favorite films. I mean, I love Shawshank Redemption. I mean, I just love I love that movie. But I mean, I'm sure you've seen that one. One good documentary is Exit Through the Gift Shop about Banksy.
Actually, I love that movie. I saw it in theaters when it came out. I love that.
Oh, did you really? I'd say you're a movie buff. I'd say
I'm a movie buff.
Yeah. I'd have a think. Yeah, I'd have a think. I mean, I've kind of reached the. It's like I've watched all the box sets of the movies, and I mean, there's only the dregs left, and I'm kind of debating about watching the dregs.
Yeah, well, add this one to the list at least, and yeah, in and of itself, and I am a movie buff, and yeah,
In and
it's
of itself.
but yes, and anyone else, I'm sure most of the people listening haven't seen Exit Through the Gift Shop, so yeah, I concur that was a really exciting movie. I love. It's probably worth a rewatch. I haven't seen it since it came out 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I see it here now. I think, is it Derek DeLaggio?
Yes, that's the name of the guy.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah, like master magician. Just it's worth watching for the close-up card tricks alone. It's really good.
Okay, and it is the Rotten Tomatoes. I've rated it well. Not that I was doubting your recommendation, but it's been reinforced by the Rotten Tomatoes lads.
Yes.
Well,
Yes, no, it's critically acclaimed. I think it's gonna anyway be a new cult classic or whatever. But all right. So as a final note, is there for the documentary we've talked about? What is that called exactly? If people want to see the 5MEO documentary.
It's on Vimeo. It's called 5MEO. It's also on Amazon, but it seems to be harder to find on Amazon just the way they have done it. But it's you can get it on 5MEO movie. If you type in 5MEO movie into Google, you'll probably get there. Let me just.
That's wow. I'm sure a lot of people have and are going to continue to see that because new people are going to Google that every day. 5MEO, they're going to find your movie. That's pretty.
Yeah, well, I wonder. It probably comes up on mine because, yeah, that's an interesting thing. Anyway, sorry, it is up there, but actually, because we had a Forbes article, it'll probably do okay.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean. Okay, so if people want to find that, they can just Google 5MEO movie, and it's on Vimeo and Amazon. So, and you said you have a new website called Unknowing.life.
Yeah. I kind of write on it from time to time.
Okay, so people can find you there. Also, you have a YouTube channel and a Patreon just under your. Is it under your name or the name of your show, Behind the Curtain?
I think it's under my name.
Okay. Frank McCaughey. Yes.
Frank McCaughey, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
McCaughey,
Gosh, I apologize for mispronouncing your name.
Oh, I think you did a good enough job.
And also, I want to say, actually, I am a fan of how you edit. I really enjoy your intros. I love the aesthetics of it. I just wanted to say that. I think it's really beautiful. The mixture of the music and the footage and you and your son yelling and wearing the Viking masks. It's just such a love. And then the final shot of the shower curtain and behind the curtain. It's my favorite intro of any non-dual people out there. So
thank you, dude. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing this interview. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. Yeah, nice one. Sure, we'll chat. Thanks a million for that. There we go.
I'll end the recording now.